The Town of Rome Board meeting to order for Thursday, February 16th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Number 2, roll call, starting from my left.
Giamatti here.
Minter here.
Asdell here.
Goldman here.
Bauerheit here.
Number 3, certified posting of the meeting, please.
I certify that on Monday, February 13th, 2023, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, February 16th, 2023 was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 3:16 p.m., posted at Rome Town Hall at 3:20 p.m., at Quick Trip LLC at 3:59 p.m., and at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 4:03 p.m.
Thank you. Number 4, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve is printed.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Number 6, citizen comments. Any posted?
No.
We'll dispense number 6. No action contemplated except possible referral to future agenda. Number 7, information updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Lori?
I have none, thank you.
Dan?
Just a update reminder, please check the Town of Rome website or the Leicester Library website. They are looking for a full-time and part-time library assistance positions. There are one full-time, one part-time position open. Descriptions and application materials are posted on the town and library websites.
Thank you. Dan?
Lake Hamlet Fishery is this weekend. Registration starts at 2 p.m. tomorrow. At this point in time, people are being asked not to drive vehicles of any type on the lake due to varying ice conditions. So keep that in mind, please.
Word of caution. Bob?
Yes, last night I had the pleasure of attending the Mid-State Technical College Culinary Certificate Recognition Program. This program was partly sponsored by Visit Rome, and I attended the dinner with fellow board members Lisa Kubik, Will Beckstrom, and Rob Segler. Visit Rome contributed $40,000 for about 10 to 12 applicants to go through the Culinary Institute and get a certificate. Of those people who started, 5 of them completed the certificate program, and one of them has got a job already and wanted to go on. The 4 remaining people are going to stay with Midwest Technical College to get their associate's degree in culinary arts. This year, or in 2023, the Visit Rome is going to allocate $100,000 to workforce development, whether it's culinary arts or trades or something like that. But this is a program I think that's needs to be recognized, and it's a good community effort to try and bring more skilled people down to our area.
And the $40,000 was a workforce development grant that Visit Rome had received to utilize at Mid-State Technical College.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. A couple things tie into the fishery on Lake Camelot. The Dove's Nest is going to be looking to set a record. They're hoping to sell about 1,000 Bloody Marys this Saturday, so if you're thirsty, I'll be there. We'll get a few of them. The other thing, too, I don't know if you've noticed, there's been some warnings by the DNR about PFAS located in some of the lakes and the fish. Just want everybody to know, a reminder that we did, Tri-Lakes did do a sediment boring a year ago, February, and we tested for PFAS, PCBs, heavy metals, you name it, we tested for everything. And we were clean with the exception of phosphates and nitrates. So lakes are clean in that respect. The other thing is Solitude. I just talked to them today. They are working on the permits with the DNR for the alum. It looks like it's a go for Lake Sherwood. They're looking to disperse the material sometime June or May, depending on lake temperatures and everything. And it's going to be interesting. We're going to see. Hopefully that'll take effect. So, Jamie?
So exciting news, Cynthia Hagar, who is the county manager for Adams County, was actually invited to the White House today. So she was at the White House for Communities in Action Building a Better Wisconsin. And it is part of a series that the White House is hosting that feature local officials and community leaders working on behalf of their communities to create opportunities and to improve people's everyday lives. They did want to know items that may have been influenced by the Biden-Harris administration. I did share what we had spent our ARPA funds on, since that was put into place during the Biden-Harris administration. So Adams County was represented at the White House today. I just think that's really cool. I would also report that camping permits are up on the town's website. This year we will be doing camping permits either here in person at Town Hall or online. It is available on the town's website under forms and permits, which is right on the homepage. And there are instructions there since this is our first year completing. Very shortly we'll do a little press release. We'll put that out on Facebook and on the town's website as a link to that. But we will take those applications online with payment, which is very exciting. This is our first form in HayGov that we've completed. And then I did send out to the supervisors, if anyone wanted to attend the 75th Annual Heart of Wisconsin Banquet and Awards. It is March 8th. We're gonna split a table with Visit Rome, so we do have some seats available if anyone would like to attend.
Thank you. Number 8, department and committee reports.
Happy to answer questions if there are any.
I had a few. Oh, anybody else have any before I start? On the police and fire commission, we're having issues with some officer candidates didn't show up. Where do we sit with new officers?
Our full-time officers have been hired.
Full-time, okay.
Yes. These were candidates that were going to be seasonal boat patrol or part-time, but our full-time candidates have been hired. They're Mariah Matthews, Helen Schrock, and Hunter Boudreau.
Okay. Part-time, we still have some candidates available.
We do still have some candidates available.
On the Town of Rome Fire Department, the numbers are interesting. Year-to-date 2022, I believe the EMS number is a year-to-date maybe for the entire year, not January. Are those numbers complete? Or is that just a total year-to-date for 2022? Is that
That
what I'm
was a
reading there?
year-to-date for 2022. In January, there was only 2.
All right.
I take January 2022, or January 2023 is 3, 22 was 2. Year-to-date was last year's number.
Thought so. Just want a clarification.
Yep.
And then on the camping permits, those numbers, are they total camping permits? Or they include seasonal or guest or secondary or anything? Are they total?
When you are seeing that camping permit number, that's all camping permits, so it would be if seasonal or guest, but your vast majority are vacant lot camping permits.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
I just had a general comment with the EMS report. We can take this up with the district meeting, but I think it'd be nice, not saying that the times are getting out of line, but when they are higher than the average, if there's some commentary provided as to what might have caused that. We can establish some parameters for that.
Yeah, actually, 8 minutes, we were higher than Monroe,
Yeah.
average.
I'm sure that
Yeah.
there's a cause for that, because call volume was down this January over last January, so that's good.
Yeah, and it might be like a mutual aid response or something to that effect, so we can ask that question.
And when is the next meeting for the annual?
March,
Next week. I don't know what day.
no, it's not next week, March. Because
What?
we meet at the last,
So I'm gonna show up somewhere next week.
March 21st,
yeah,
March 21st, sorry.
Yep.
not
Big
February.
Flats.
Big Flats.
Got it.
Last month of every quarter.
Anything else for department committee reports? Discuss some possible action on the following items. Number 9, discussion and action approval of the February 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes.
I'll move to
Yep.
approve with a question.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
Yes, I have a question regarding, we did make a motion and approved it unanimously that a letter would go out to Tri-Lakes Management District about helping with the payment of the mailer, and I'm wondering if you had sent that mailing out, or that question out to them.
I did not, because I don't have a total cost to know
Okay.
what that number would be in sharing. I mean,
All right.
once I would know what our total cost would be, then I could ask.
Great, thank
Yep.
you, Jamie.
Anything else in meeting minutes? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 10, discussion and action, checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries. Approved checks number 44927 through 45013 totaling $6,079,606.39. Auto payments totaling $102,986.71. State, Social Security, Medicare withholding totaling $36,301.65. Payroll vouchers V19958 through V20060 totaling $93,497.46, and checks 21653 totaling $1,029.95. Receipts number 24226 through 24297 totaling $6,785,777.76.
I'd move to approve as presented.
Second it.
Any discussion?
I would only note that there was also a January report to date where we are with budget. So you'll get that now when you get your financials every month. So this was January's in the packet.
Would you like to discuss that now or later?
Now, if there were any questions on it, but the only thing I would mention is that sometimes you'll see in January that something would be not at just a quarter, or, not at just a month, and that's because sometimes contracts are paid in January, right? That would be for all year. So if some budget items are like, oh wow, we're already at 40%, that's likely because there's a contract in there that gets paid out once a year and it got paid in January.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I didn't really find anything that was unusual. I did expect numbers to be low, and I figured most of them, such as wages, police and fire, would be around 8%, which is 1 month's worth. I did have a question though, and I assume the answer is because it's not monthly payments, but like health insurance are in the 30-40 range. Is that because they get paid quarterly or something along that line?
That's because your HSA is contributed in January and July. It's a split payment, so it's gonna be more in that, you'll see a bump in January and July for health.
Yeah, okay. And then the highway state aid, this is on page 2. We received $102,073. A budget is $408,000, 25%. Do you expect the rest of that to come in, or more or less?
The state pays that in quarterly installments.
Okay.
Yeah, we receive that in quarterly installments.
So they're right on the money on that one. So that was all I had. Thank you. This is very helpful. Number 11, discussion and possible action, approval of ordinance number
I think we
23.
need to take a vote. I don't think we took
Oh,
a vote.
I'm sorry.
We had a motion a second.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Now on number 11, discussion and possible action, approval of ordinance number 23, recommendation from the Plan Commission on proposed amendments to Chapter 360 zoning articles 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, requirements regarding roof pitch in the R1, R1C, R3, R4, R5, LD, LA, A1, and A2 zoning districts.
All right, I'll take this, if it's all right, just to give you a bit of a background and just go over the approvals that have been made today. So before you this evening are proposed amendments to Chapter 360 relating to roof pitch requirements in certain districts in the town. Just as a general overview, currently in most zoning districts in the town, the minimum roof pitch is noted at 412. An exception to that is in R2, where it's currently 312, and that's because of the type of structures that are allowed in that district. So recently the town has been asked to consider roof pitch requirements that allow for a little bit of an expanded design options. And specifically, I think the term that was used, and I'm going to defer to the administrator to describe what this is. Modern mountain is the term that has been used in describing some of these, for an example of an expanded use that uses a little bit of a different pitch, a little bit different slope, and would benefit from a 312 roof pitch. The Plan Commission did consider the amendments that you have before you this evening. In doing that, just as a general note, the Plan Commission did review a number of other local and throughout the state ordinances and how they treat roof pitch requirements. At the last meeting, which would have been February 14th, 2023, the Planning Commission did consider these amendments, had a public hearing, after which the Planning Commission recommended approval of the amended roof pitch requirements in those districts noted, amending them to 312.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance amending chapter 360 regarding roof pitches.
Second.
Discussion? I have several. On page 96, and this is on most of the pages, when it refers to shed, I'm looking at 360-37, C, sub 5. It refers to a shed, and just for clarity, could we put permitted shed in all those? It is located on 360-10 sub A, where it does say permitted shed. The rest of them do not. I'm just looking for clarity so that people don't think that just because they're gonna put a house up, they can throw a shed up without a permit. But we do note it on 360-10 sub A, permitted shed.
Your opinion on that, Nick, please?
And then, as I understand too, all our residential districts then will be 312, right? Pitch?
This would make all districts 312 that regulate the slope.
Okay.
And it includes some other non-residential districts that you can build.
Right,
Egg.
right. That's why I say that the way that I do, because
Yeah.
it's not just residential districts, just to be clear.
But I'm just thinking for clarity, the permitted sheds would be,
Can that change,
Self-explanatory.
that can't be made here, right? We have to,
No, it really can't, because this one is specific to roof pitch. What you could do is refer this,
All right.
item to Plan Commission, that would be the appropriate way of handling that. And then the Plan Commission can consider that a referral.
we'll make a note on this because we'll come back to it then. As long as we're here, page 101. As long as we're looking at these, I was looking at it. Anyway, it says impervious area of 20% to the total lot area. What's the county at? Are they at 20 or higher?
They're at 15.
They're at 15? I thought they were higher than us.
No, they are at 15. But that would only apply to those that were within lake shore zoning.
Yes, 1,000 foot, I believe.
Yep,
Okay.
but they are less.
Okay. I'll come back to that. So anything in red is open, anything else that wasn't in red is not open, right, now? Okay.
At this point, we are on number 11, so
Right.
of course, that gets different when we get to item number 12. At this point, the only red that you should see is changing 412 to 312.
Okay.
And for the non-building inclined person, what does that mean, 412, 312? Is it, so,
This would be like 3, this would be 4.
okay, so,
So
3 feet, 3 foot
3
height,
feet,
12 foot
12.
out.
okay, got it.
if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to bring, so our zoning administrator actually put
Ah, we have a
together
picture.
a great
Yes.
tutorial
Thank you.
Excellent.
that gives you,
Emily.
Got it.
gives you an overview
Okay,
of what
a
those,
slightly flatter roof.
yeah, what
Got
those
it.
actually mean.
You see,
Okay,
like,
yep, rise, run,
a
slope.
lot of homes going like this now, that's what means mountain type home, or
Mm-hmm.
they go like this, so it gives you a lot more flexibility
And then,
when
of
you're
course, you get the
designing
chalet
a
at 1812.
home. If you're putting a home in there,
Cool.
probably.
Well, kudos to Emily for
Yes.
putting that together.
She did that
Makes it
for
very
science
obvious.
as well. Yes.
Neighbor's got a 2112.
Whoa.
You don't climb that one.
Thank you,
All
Emily.
right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 12, discussion and possible action, approval of ordinance number 23, recommendation from the Plan Commission on proposed amendments to Chapter 360 zoning articles 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 12, definitions, general regulations, and residential zoning district requirements regarding accessory structures.
All right, so as a bit of background, and just for clarity as to the process that this followed, so as you're likely aware, there has been a joint subcommittee that had been working on comp plan proposed amendments. In doing that during those meetings, the subcommittee also did review this set of ordinance requirements and made some recommendations regarding the same. And so after that came as a recommendation from the subcommittee then kind of made that recommendation and moved to the Plan Commission for consideration. The Plan Commission did consider that at the last two meetings. And just to call your attention to what that is doing and where that is taking place, the areas of change or amendments are in three different locations primarily. So one is adding to the definition section of the zoning code to more clearly define certain types of accessory structures. Those include carports, canopies, gazebos, and pergolas. So as the subcommittee really is where it started, had started to look at these, I think the question came up time and time again, well, how do we define these things, right? Are we defining them? And really the opportunity was recognized for making things clearer by starting with the definitions. That can always be very helpful when you have clear definitions in your ordinance, particularly the zoning ordinance. Second is in the general regulations for accessory structures, the proposed amendments do the following. Requires structural maintenance and appearance upkeep to not constitute a nuisance condition. Adds to the list of structures not permitted in non-agricultural districts prior to the principal structure to include gazebos larger than 150 square feet and pergolas. And last, states that freestanding and detached carports are not permitted. And then finally, the third larger area that were adjusted, we're updating the residential district regulations in certain residential districts. That's important to note. So in some of the residential districts with primarily smaller lot sizes, there were some regulations that are proposed as amended to limit the number of permitted accessory structures to 2. In addition to the to allow the shed on the parcel, and then add in maximum lot coverage area, you'll see that's added into each of those residential districts. And again, I'm not talking about R4 and R5 districts. We're talking about really R1 through R3 districts, and that's because those primarily have the smaller lot sizes. Once you get to R4 and R5, of course, those lot sizes move up. Just a general note, just like the last agenda item, this was considered at the Plan Commission's February 14th meeting, where there was a public hearing held, after which the Plan Commission did make the recommendation to approve the amendments as presented.
Motion to approve the approval of ordinance number 23- based on the recommendation from the Plan Commission on proposed amendments to zoning chapter 360 of articles 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, definitions, general regulations, and residential zoning district requirements regarding accessory structures. And just to make note, Emily did do a good visual piece on that as well. If
Second.
anybody wants to see it.
Yeah, do you have it?
No,
Supervisor
I didn't
Knight?
bring it.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm glad you mentioned it. Does any supervisor want to see that visual? There was an excellent visual that was put together by our zoning administrator, and it's a really good note that I think the intention was to start to have pictorials that kind of give those examples in clear format to anybody that's looking for some clarity in what some of these structures are and what we're referencing when we are.
It helps with enforcement.
And so if anybody wants to see a copy of those, I do have them this evening.
Any discussion? I have a question. On page 120, 360-10 sub A, in the red area this time, where it says outside appearance shall be maintained so as not to become a nuisance to the neighborhood. Can you define nuisance? It wasn't in the
Yeah,
definition there.
Sure, so when we regulate nuisance conditions in general, I believe we have a nuisance area of our ordinance, so it wouldn't fall in.
What is it? Give me a definition. I mean, for clarity.
Sure, it tends to be dilapidated, junk, debris, just the condition of a property that constitutes a nuisance condition, usually looking to state statute if I'm looking for a specific definition, because I believe that's chapter 181.
Okay.
I can get you
As long as it refers to it, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, so when we do get to the point of enforcement of a nuisance, that's a standard that I need to meet when we go to trial, if we do, typically established by pictures and some testimony.
Yeah, just so it's clear. And on page 123, it's a short one there. It says lot coverage by buildings, impervious buildings and ancillary surfaces, including driveways, shall not occupy more than 20% of the total lot area. An applicant for a zoning permit shall provide a diagram that includes lot dimensions, total area, and the location. Dimensions and area of the buildings together, computations that demonstrate compliance with this section. Can we make that to scale? It should be to scale. If you don't have a drawing to scale, it's kind of worthless.
Okay, so just a question back to that. So first off, the motion that was made was to approve it. So if you're looking to adjust some of the language, you'd have to amend that motion. Or you could make just a recommendation that when this application is put together, and these materials are put together and provided to anybody that's looking to apply, that the language be in that application that it needs to be to scale.
Okay.
So I guess
It's not my motion or second, so.
Does this have to go back to public hearing, even though this is minor?
Well, I think to that point, probably not, because so the recommendation would be, from the plan commission, I don't think that this is a materially enough change that would require it to be referred, although you certainly could. Again, I'm not hearing an amendment or even a proposed amendment necessarily, but you could. But to do that, if you want to actually have the language reflect that in the ordinance, you'd need to amend the motion, because the motion is of course.
I don't see why it has to be a scale drawing. I mean, you're looking for a percentage of the lot that's impervious surfaces, and obviously any drawing that's going to be presented will have to have all the dimensions on there, so it'd be easy to calculate.
You can calculate it, but when you do a drawing, it's gotta be to scale. I used to draw. I was an architect and I was in school and whatnot, and drawing draftsman. You gotta have it to scale. If you're not to scale, you can make whatever you want. You can make that picture look however you want it to look.
I happen to agree with Supervisor Bauerheit, and I would prefer that we would take that back to the plan commissioners then to discuss further, because most people, when they go in to start designing their lot and their home and use of the space, they do bring us pretty substantial drawings, and they're pretty much they have the numbers right on their drawing, so to ask them now to bring scaled size drawing, it's different if you're a developer and you have unlimited pockets, but sometimes they're already spending a lot of money, so I think we should have that discussion as a plan commission, so I will not amend my motion.
I think it's very common in new home construction. I think where it would be more of a concern is I have a lot and I'm just putting up the 150 square foot or less shed.
Or you could be putting in a new driveway.
Those items people have brought in hand drawings or have printed out their lot overlay and put it on there.
You can do hand drawings, but it can still be to scale.
And I do
Without
believe,
scale, it's nuts. You're out of control.
I do believe that we have a checklist now that helps us with some of that with Emily for enforcement, so again, I think that might be a good question for us at plan commission for further discussion and clarity.
I don't have a problem with them taking it back to plan commission.
We would just note that in the minutes.
But as far as this motion, my motion still stands as,
Okay, we have a
This
motion.
won't go back, but there'll be a referral about scale drawings that will be brought up at plan commission.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Motion's carried. We're on 13, right?
Yes.
Discussion and possible action, recommendation from the Plan Commission regarding consideration of a site plan of operation for Kevin Cole for the property located at County Highway Z, also described as Lot 1 of CSM 6703, located in part of Government Lot 2 and Government Lot 7, Section 2, Town 20 North, Range 06 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a parcel number of 030-000047-0085.
All right, so before you this evening is an application for a site plan of operation for a proposed campground off County Road Z. I'm just going to state it generally, but certainly there's a substantial amount of information in your packet. But generally, the proposal is for 4 sites intended for seasonal rental, and I believe each one has a corresponding vote slip contemplated. The subject property is zone B1. The applicant had received a conditional use permit from the town back in July of 2016. I believe that's also in your packet. That approval was conditioned on the applicant returning to the town with a more detailed site plan before actually starting the project, and that is what brings then this item to the town this evening. So the Plan Commission reviewed the submitted site plan of operation at its meeting on February 14th, 2023. A public hearing was held, and after which the Plan Commission recommended approval of the site plan of operation with the following conditions added to their recommendation. First, that the applicant obtain a town campground license. Just a general note that in our ordinance, the town campground license does require a state campground permit as well before any license would be issued. I state that because I don't believe it's on the findings of fact that you have before you this evening. There was a lengthy discussion about that, and because of our language requiring those state permits, it was not part of, it wasn't an explicit number in the findings of fact. It will be, though, a requirement before we would issue any license. Second, that the applicant obtain a sign permit prior to placement of any proposed signage on the site. Third, that the location provide for adequate refuse collection and containment of the same, so as not to create a nuisance condition. And then the findings of fact, as I stated, is going to accompany your materials this evening. I believe in your packet you had another one. Just note that that should be replaced with the one that was at your table this evening.
The only comment I would make on this one, to Nick and Supervisor Goldman, who's also commissioner, is that it does not reflect, I don't know if that's an issue to approve this evening, but it doesn't reflect where the refuse containers would be. I don't know, we don't have the, but this is a to-scale document that they submitted. But it doesn't reflect where the refuge, does that really matter, Nick, if we approve it without that being on this drawing like it was?
It's on this one.
Oh, is it on?
It's on
On the
there.
colored one in the
Colored.
packet.
Refuse, yeah.
Oh, I don't,
Yeah,
Oh.
So
it's
there's a number
it's
of,
down here on the driveway.
oh, okay, I didn't have, oh.
There were a
okay.
number
I'm
of
sorry, I
different
apologize, I
documents.
don't see it
and-
in mine, but I had it last night, thank you.
Yep.
I mean, I guess just a general comment for people that aren't looking at these documents, it's not a massive campground, it's very much a boutique thing, 4 spots.
6.
It's 4.
4.
I see 6 on here.
The 2 in the middle, that's part of the septic systems.
All right.
That's not
So
actually.
you're right, 4. But they did say 6 somewhere. Okay.
I believe the applicant said 4 sites for seasonal rental, and each one would have a corresponding vote slip.
And there's 2 septic system, 1 septic system for 2 campers.
Yes.
So they have large enough tanks for both campers.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan and plan of operation for the property owned by Kevin Cole on County Highway Z.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? I had a heck of a time finding this on the map. Notice that under the 0085, it was on there in the Adams County GIS, but the map wasn't, but found it, and looks like they have a nice little operation going here.
That property's been divided a couple times,
Yeah.
so it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
It looks like they started this in 2016. Yeah. Well, good luck to them. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 14, discussion of possible action, approval of mobile device forensic services agreement with Wood County Sheriff's Department.
So the agreement was included in your packet. It was drafted by Attorney Flanagan. Mobile device forensics is essentially a software most commonly referred to as Cellbrite, where you would download information from an individual's cell phone if it was taken in an investigation. Wood County had reached out to us. They have detectives on staff that utilize this equipment frequently and are skilled in it and would be open to us having this agreement. What would be the positive for us is it does take a lot of training, right? And if you have turnover in staff, you would lose that institutional knowledge. We don't have the same detective staff as they do, so this, we thought, was a really good partnership to get that expertise when we do have situations where we would need a cell phone download.
So these would sometimes be investigations we turn over to Wood County without our detectives involved or sergeant involved, and other times it would be us being involved with them. It's just using their equipment at a,
It's really utilizing the Cellbrite software, which, so
Simply
currently we
just this-
use the,
okay.
we have Cellbrite software,
right.
but what this would do would utilize the counties. We would still transport, and certainly it's still part of our investigation.
Okay.
But we are able to utilize their resources to an extent to perform some of those extractions. It's gonna certainly
more
save us
difficult.
in personnel, and it's also going to save us in the licensure of the software.
Excellent, thank you.
I don't believe it would be turning it over per se to their detective.
What is our annual cost for Cellbrite right now?
It's between $5,000 and
$2,000.
$7,000.
How much did you say, Jamie? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
$5,000 to $7,000 is what I remember from budgeting.
So we wouldn't have to expand that in the future then?
Not for the continuation of the licensing of the software, no.
Yeah.
Or training of the individual that would be.
Seems like a no-brainer.
And just one other general note, this has been reviewed also by Wood County, and they've signed off on it as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the services agreement with Wood County for mobile device forensic services.
Second.
And the $2,000 cost, that's every year that we pay, but there's no additional fees throughout the year for usage or anything like that, right?
Correct.
So, good deal. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 15, discussing possible action approval of the Public Works 2023 through 2027 road improvement plan for the 2023 Local Roads Improvement Program, LRIP application.
So there was a memo that was included in your packet. As noted at the previous meeting, if we would not be successful in that next phase of Apache through the BIL, we would apply for the LRIP funding. And with that LRIP funding, you do need an adopted 5-year road plan. This road plan that was in the budget, that was in the packet, isn't different than what we talked about at budget time, other than it does reflect the Apache work being done in 2024 to coincide with the application for LRIP. Director Martinson is here if there are additional questions.
Does what we have outlined here, as it's presented, meet the requirements of a 5-year road plan?
Yes.
And the question I have is, why would we not do LRIP in addition to the bill money that's coming from the feds?
I don't believe if you get bill that you can utilize another grant to make a match. If you get bill funds, but if we wouldn't receive it, we would apply for LRIP to try to get funds to offset it.
For that particular project, but what
Yes.
about other road maintenance? We can't do LRIP for other road maintenance, only as a substitute for what we don't get from bill, is what you're saying, if I understand you correctly.
Well, Brad can correct me, but I think we would apply for that Apache project for LRIP because that would be a larger scale project in order to get the match for.
Okay.
And it would be a project that we could have the engineering done for fairly quickly.
Okay,
I don't know if you can submit more than one LRIP application.
If you can't submit more than one, can you combine your efforts, put like 3 or 4 roads together?
No, because you have to have a start and stop for a road. You can't do a start and stop for one road,
Okay.
pick another road for start and stop. They have refill their application.
So would it be smart then to take your longest sections and apply for one large couple-mile stretch?
Which we're doing 1.5 miles of Apache.
Apache.
Okay. Which section was that, from
It's 10th to 13th.
10th to 13th? Okay.
okay, thank you for the clarification.
Nice work, Brad. Can I get a motion, please?
Move to approve the Public Works Road Improvement Plan for 2023 through 2027.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Discussion and possible action, review of timeline and estimate to complete Timberline Parkway Extension in Rome Town Center.
So in your packet, there was a plat map that was marked draft. I did replace that this evening with a little bit larger copy. The change in that plat map is really at the bottom where Anawa Court comes off. It brings that road in. That road will have a little bend to it. It's just that we don't own the property in order to make it a truly straight shot, so it will have a little bend to go in. That's the difference in the plat map from what was in your packet to the updated one that was provided. And then I apologize for the confusion, but you received in your packet the engineering's estimate. This is for the road construction. The one that you got tonight at the table would be for the water expansion. So, for the water expansion, which would be the next phase that we would do with the grading of that road, getting it set, and ready to be paved, outlined, essentially, you're looking at $90,470. That's to take the water from where it currently is all the way to 13th Ave. And then, again, an estimate from the engineer to actually construct that road, $303,000. I did note in the memo that General Engineering, as our engineering firm on this, we have spent to date the $10,300. They anticipated it would be about $20,000 to get us all the way through bidding documents. And I did bring tonight, if anyone wants to see them, the draft, like actual road construction plans that we have at this moment. Not finalized, but actual surface plans. So, did I miss anything, Greg? I know it was requested to kind of see where we were at with this project. If the board still, again, we did budget, I believe it was $245,000. That would come out of our 30% room tax in order to help continue this project to go. Again, we can't sell any of that land, actually close on that sale, because it doesn't have road frontage. You have to have at least 70 foot of road frontage, and we don't have that there. So the water would be the next phase of getting that road in and completed.
Would we look to recoup some of these costs through the sales?
You certainly could, right? It would make your lots more expensive than what they have previously been sold for. That's just not good or bad, just if you were looking to receive some of it back through lot sales, yes.
Consideration.
Have we had any interest in lot purchases within the last 4 months?
We actually have 2 offers that will be on the next CDA meeting.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of when our one previous to that. I mean,
Where are those lots located, Jamie? The ones that are be bringing to CDA? Just location, you don't have to.
They are one is in Mixed Town Center, and one would be off of 13th Ave.
Okay. In mixed multiple housing, or mixed type housing?
I don't know, I'd like to
Just
just,
there's really nothing else on the other side next to the larger buildings for, like, Snow Bandits and Sherwood.
so you do have an accepted offer, but not a
Correct.
closure of sale with Monroe Prairie for
Correct.
a shed up there, yes. For a,
There's nothing else on
maintenance
that side of Timberline that we can sell, so it would be
No.
all on the other side, which is in mixed housing.
there would be some on that side that you could sell. If you look at how this would go through. So your top page would be to the north. You can see your lot 1 is about 20 acres. That's what you have identified as 55 and older housing. Your lot 3 is 11 acres. That's what you've identified as multifamily. Lot 2 is 16 acres. That's all Mixed Town Center. And lot 4 is all Mixed Town Center at 9.3 acres.
So 2 and 4 are mixed town center.
2 and 4, yep.
So really what we're looking at abutting 13th Ave is additional housing.
Yes, lot 1 and 3 are slated for more dense housing development.
So that's off of Vienna, but we're putting in Timberline, but those lots would have access off of 13 and Timberline.
Yes, and Vienna, you can see, we will have, because we'll have to go through a land division, because this
Right.
is just big lots right now to actually declare that as road right-of-way.
Right.
Vienna, in this process, will be identified as road right-of-way and noted on land records. So we'll have that first piece of it done, but we aren't at this moment moving forward with taking down the trees and grading it like we are with Timberline. Then your lot 5 at 4 acres, that's where Monroe Prairie would be located. And you would still have that saleable lot 6 at 4 acres that would be in that light industrial area, that you'd have access to out of that light industrial area.
And Monroe Prairie is on lot 5,
Yes,
which is zoned as
light industrial.
light industrial as well. Okay.
Is
Do
there
we
any
need a,
action needed here?
do we need a motion or anything?
It is in budget, I mean, I think
Yeah.
we just,
Basically, we've already approved it in budget.
you have approved it in budget, just making sure that we still feel good about processes we're going through. I know there was interest in just keeping, good tabs on these infrastructure projects.
So you want a feel-good motion?
You wouldn't need to, it would be your
All
comfort.
right. Number 17, discussion and possible action, approval to request consideration from the town of Saratoga for transfer of a reserved Class B liquor license.
Great, so there was a memo in the packet that kind of outlined what we were talking about. We have discussed this in the past, but it's been a little while, so maybe just like a quick recap. The town has reached its limit of Class B combination license, which would allow an establishment to serve hard liquor. There is not a limit on beer and wine licenses. There is one on hard liquor. How that limit is established is in 1995, you got whatever your number was is your number, and every time you gain 500 people in population, you get another license, unless you get one turned back in, or there's some exceptions to this if you have over 300 seating area, a couple other ones. So, within statute. We have reached our quota. We often get the question of, we've experienced so much growth, we must have expanded at 500 people. We have just reached this year where we were in 2008, back in population. So now we have to gain our 500. From when in 2008 we took a loss, a large loss in population, and have just got back to that number of 3,100. So now we have to gain our 5,000 before 500. I said 1,000. 500 before we would get an additional license. However, statute allows that if there is a continuous municipality and they've already issued a license and they have a reserve, not a regular, established in 95, they can't give those to us, they could transfer. And there would be a transfer agreement that would be put together. The town attorney and I have done this research with those that are continuous to us a couple times, I think twice. And Saratoga is the only town that has one that's continuous to us that has an available reserve that potentially we could do a transfer with. So the agenda item tonight is just to see if the board would like to pursue asking the town of Saratoga. We have asked 3 times previous, and Saratoga has said they would like to keep that license for their own development. I think that they would, we could have the discussion. I think they would add it to an agenda to have the discussion, but we have asked previously also.
Has their population been growing?
I am not sure where they are at in population. They are larger than us. They're someplace in the 5,000 range, but I'm not sure where exactly they would be in their 500 mark.
If we did something here, you and Nick would do a letter that we would see prior to submission, or what's the process?
So the process would be, if you signed off on it this evening, a letter of interest would be the first step. We've done that letter of interest in the past. That letter of interest is really the catalyst to getting it on an agenda. Of course, you can see that the question would be, do you need to sign off on it? Certainly if you want to. In the past, the board hasn't asked to sign off on that letter because, again, the letter is really just starting the process. Where you're signing off on is if the request was met favorably enough to consider a transfer agreement, then you all, of course, would see that transfer agreement. That transfer agreement is going to set forth certain expectations. I think it was touched on last month. I'll just state it again. There is a minimum that would be the cost associated with that transfer. It has to be at least $10,000. There isn't a maximum. It would be up to the transferring municipality to set that. And so we set those kind of expectations and the process for which the transfer would happen in an agreement. And so you all, of course, would see that agreement if it got to that point. This evening, I think what the direction we're looking for is whether or not we should even approach Saratoga for a request for one of their available licenses.
Have you had conversations with interested parties?
Yes.
Well, based on that, I'm gonna make a motion that we request consideration from the town of Saratoga for a transfer of a reserve license.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Chairman, before you move on, I just want to make sure that we're understood. And so are you all right with just getting a copy of the letter that we sent to Saratoga, just for your awareness? Thank you.
Number 18, discussing and possible action approval of ordinance number 23, amending chapter 287, property maintenance, article 2, lawn fertilizer application, section 287-5, purpose and intent.
Thank you. So this was a referral from the town board's last meeting. As I understand it, this was also I'm not sure if it was a discussion or a recommendation from Tri-Lakes.
It was initiated at Tri-Lakes, yeah,
Okay,
just
yeah,
a
so
discussion.
It started at least as a discussion from Tri-Lakes for our consideration. It relates to fertilizer application to lake frontage property and ways to avoid over-fertilization and runoff into the lakes. The recommendation was to include language that encouraged lake frontage property owners to consider lake water irrigation as a source of natural fertilization, so as to avoid over-fertilization and runoff and protect the town's water quality. That language is being proposed as added to the policy and intent of our ordinance, and so you see that language as put into the purpose and intent section.
So I move that we approve ordinance 23 amending chapter 287 to allow, to suggest that lakefront property owners who fertilize, that they can fertilize from lake water.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have some questions, please. Maybe somebody can help me, Bob, if you could, or whoever. Or Dan, you're very active on your lake association. Oh.
Put your speaker down, please.
Maybe Bob or, I have some questions. The question that I have, I know this came up a number of years ago with our lake association. People do use water from the lakes. The question I would have is the fact that we call it natural fertilization. But if there's decomposition of like lakes materials that's either coming from harvesting the weeds or people cutting grass, and then the water from the lake is being used to come and pump, and then that runs down even just from the geese that are there, dogs that people may have, does any of that contribute back then to some of the nitrates and phosphorus that the lakes might still be experiencing? Because I know on Lake Arrowhead, there's a lot of weeds and decomposition. of
Perhaps,
it.
but the point here is that there's enough nitrogen in the water right now, regardless of any other contribution that a homeowner might make, to help with fertilization.
Okay, so if they're,
To encourage them to not contribute more.
So in other
That's
words,
your
if you have
ultimate
people
goal
who are
of this, is
fertilizing
not
their
to bring in
grass
a false.
three times a year, they could cut back, say, to one or maybe even, 2 at the most.
okay, so even though the fact that they don't, and they're not allowed to use fertilization that has phosphates in it, there's still some issue with other things running off with the fertilizers they are using from professionals, so that's why you're
No,
recommending this.
why we're recommending this is basically within the lakes, at any given point in time, there's enough nitrogen there to grow a satisfactory lawn.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 19, discussion only, review of timelines to completion and budget for the Rome Town Center Band Shell Pavilion.
So there was a memo again in the packet, just outlining, again, is the request of just keeping track of these infrastructure projects that we have going on. I won't go through it in detail, but I did include our income and contributions that we have either pledged or received and what's outstanding on those. Our expenses to date, which equal just over 166,000. The awarded agreements and our outstanding amounts on those awarded agreements as we move through to the completion of the band shell. I would note on that what you see total paid to date, the 107 on our awarded contracts equals this 107 on the band shell pavilion construction on expenses to date. The same number, just represented slightly differently so you can see what's outstanding. And then I also put in there what potential future expenses would be with pickleball, basketball, fencing that would go around those courts, shade structures. Those are all estimates. I know Supervisor Barhart's gonna say that my estimate on the pickleball court is low, so they could be more than that. We're getting some better numbers. We also asked Lake Arrowhead, who just recently put in 6 courts, where they were with expenses on those numbers. But this is just kind of an overall view of where we are with income and expenses. And then I included in the packet the timeline in a calendar format. We met with the contractors, and all of the contractors agreed that they could match this calendar with their other projects that are going on, and they potentially could start earlier if we were consistently above freezing through the overnight, because our next step is the mason, and the mason needs that warm temperature for the stonework that needs to be done. So the 3rd week of April, if not before, we will resume construction and looking to get finished early August, if not before.
That'll be completely finished, not just phase one, both, everything.
All
Phase
done.
one and phase two.
Kitchen too, all the cupboards and, okay.
And Jamie, I didn't think you're that far off, because my estimate included fencing and also the basketball court, pickleball court, I think are integral. They're both the same, basically.
So looking at these numbers, if we have like $470,000 pledged towards the construction of the band shell, and we've had bids out of 365, is the 365 the actual bid cost of constructing that actual band shell then?
Yes, the
So then
365
there'd be
is-
about $100,000, give or take, left over, I'll call it left over from the pledges, that then can be used towards some of those other things like the pickleball courts and things like that.
No.
Assuming there's no cost overruns.
less because we already did the site prep, right? The 166,000 includes our grading of the Great Lawn, the sprinkler system, the well that was drilled there, the electric. And so we're looking at about 45 that we have to continue with phase 2 from our pledges and contributions.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how much we'd have left over after the band shell's built to then get to the pickleball courts.
45,600.
Okay.
Plus, I think as we move forward, we have other opportunities for more grants, and we will certainly be writing those grants as we develop our plans. The Parks and Rec Committee right now is trying to finalize what we're thinking about for pickleball courts. You know, are we gonna have 4 or 6, and do we wanna have it lighted at night? Those are questions we wanna answer.
There's a lot of recreation management, different groups throughout the US that there's money available if you apply for it. And
Right.
again, there's certain, particulars that you have to qualify or in-kind services, but there is money out there for specific things, be it for 55-plus age group, children, what have
Plus,
you.
we have 2 outstanding grants right now that we've written this year, and we have 2 more that we're gonna write before the end of May.
Not my AARP 1,000.
We did submit one to AARP.
That's yours.
We did
But not
that.
the $1,000 small
the-
community, big impact.
Got it.
Yeah, we're
For public
in a
art.
different category than you are, so
Right,
you're
right.
okay.
Anything else on number 19?
Nope, just an update.
Thank you. Discussion and possible action, continue conversation on safety concerns, property damage, lake bed, soil disruption, and shoreline erosion caused by wake manipulation devices on Lake Camelot, Sherwood, and Arrowhead, specific to a review draft postcard for input survey.
So I did just put in your packet, it will be printed on cardstock and colored paper, but the simple postcard that we would be looking to mail out. I did include, which was the recommendation from last time, about visiting a link on the website that we would put some information on, looking for a little bit of input on what would be the information that we would want to put on that website. And then it would have the link of where the survey would be available, and I did put on here that May 31st, that's a fluid date, because it will depend on getting the list from the county, getting it put together so it can get mailed out and the postcards over to ODC. So that's just a placeholder, but looking to get input on feeling good about the postcard and what do we want to put on that site.
So you don't need a motion, just looking for input.
Just looking for input.
Looks good for me.
Postcard looks good to me.
Concerning the site, you would pretty much just come back with the same questions and specifically the same responses from the residents?
So whatever that pages that we would create on our website would have that link to the survey, but then we talked at the last meeting that we might wanna put links to potential studies or articles, so just looking for some input about what those all might be.
Would it be easier to maybe put a link to the Tri-Lakes Management District, because some of those studies are already there?
We don't have any wake studies on there. But I would suggest we look at the wake studies. There's still one I'm waiting to hear back from that was pretty recently done in Minnesota, and I've asked for permission to use that, so that one's pretty comprehensive as well. The ones up again at Presque Isle were I thought very informative and very complete.
And they made their decision, Presque Isle had made their decision quite a while ago, and that's why they have very fine and clear lakes, and so,
I don't believe that their ordinance is in place for.
no, it's not in place yet, but they did put out a survey.
Well, whatever it is, it needs to be produced by a professional organization.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Experts.
So are these questions being reviewed by experts once they've been approved by?
At this moment, we had approved the survey. I wasn't going to share it with another entity. I certainly could. If I did though, and they made substantial changes, it likely would come back here for those to be reviewed.
And what about citizens that were in Tri-Lakes? I remember there were a number of people we had heard from last summer that had asked to have some input as well.
We have certainly had it as part of the town board meetings in the packet. I did provide copies to some residents that have asked, but I didn't receive any additional feedback. With that said though, I didn't make personal calls either.
Okay, thank you.
Well, their feedback will be in the survey, so. Do you want me to have EOR take a look at this? They are experts.
Or if they had recommendations of things that they thought should be included on that page, I don't think that's.
I think that's going beyond what the town had really expected this survey to do, but that's just my opinion as a town board supervisor. Then we're getting more into the Tri-Lakes issues that they're responsible for all lakefront and lake district property owners. Because originally the concerns were over safety and property damage. Now we're getting more into the lake bed soil disruption and shoreline erosion, which I understand are very important, but we're going beyond what we originally said this was supposed to be about. And those are simply my comments, and
Well, I think erosion was there from the very get-go.
Yes. On top of that, Tri-Lakes cannot pass ordinances.
I'm not
No
talking about
enforcement.
an ordinance. I'm simply stating that you're gathering information on a survey.
Yeah, but it's all one big packet. It's all related. Would the board like Tri-Lakes to have EOR consider this?
I don't think we should go beyond our town board and Tri-Lakes. That'll cost more money. Unless Tri-Lakes is willing to pay for that.
I don't think it's necessary to contact EOR regarding this. I mean, we're just gonna give them a point of information they can go to.
Okay,
To get
so we
another
just stick with the
opinion.
studies that are out there and the survey.
Right.
Okay. You know,
When do you think you'd know about that study from Minnesota?
boy, I sent him 2 letters. I'll give him a call, I guess.
Okay.
Make it, push it.
Yep, so if we had that study and we had the one from Presque Isle, do we feel like that's sufficient? That would cover,
I'd like the one from Presque Isle.
okay.
There was several from
helpful.
Presque Isle, so we have to
They had
pick and choose.
that larger report that was,
Well, yeah, they had several different ones, so we can look through it. Do we need a motion on this, or?
nope, that's the feedback that I was looking for.
Right.
I will request the list from the county in the next week to 10 days so we can move to the next step.
All right, next agenda items?
So I just want to mention that I did reach out to the Nakusa School District. We've just had a lot of questions this year about how many kids do we have in the school district, what's happening over there. Lynn Knight, who's their comptroller, their treasurer individual, and I believe she's called comptroller, finance person, and the superintendent will join us at the next meeting. I just had shared with them that it makes sense going forward that maybe we do this quarterly, just so knowing that our students go to Nakusa School District, are there big things that are happening that are on the docket that we should know about or that we could share? So they'll join us for the first meeting in March. The other item I have is
Question, Jamie, do you want an assumption update at the same time or at a different time?
probably at a different time.
Okay.
Yep. I would also put in there that if you had specific questions that you wanted to make sure that they addressed in their presentation, that if you can send those to me in advance. I don't know, given this is the first time we've done this, if we potentially would get to all of them in 15 minutes, but they would prepare a written statement if there were questions that came forward. And I say that obviously these are filmed. If there's anybody watching and they have questions that they want answered, they also could send those to me so we could make sure that we had a frequently asked questions document.
Good.
And we also need to make a slight revision to our COVID policy, so we would have that on the next agenda too, or our contagious and infectious disease policy.
Okay, next meeting date and time, number 22.
So February and March are the same, so March 2nd, 5 o'clock.
You get a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? You're adjourned, thank you.
Meeting adjourned at 6:07 PM.